Zach is back. It's the Zach Gelb Show on Fox Sports 920 The Jersey.
Gotta love this time of the year. Playoff hockey is back. 609-919-9200. Welcome back in on this Wednesday. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Fox Sports 920 The Jersey, 920 a.m. in Bucks, Burlington, and Mercer counties, or worldwide on the web at 920thejersey.com. And the Rangers are looking to embark on another long playoff run. They've had some success in recent memory in the postseason, and now joining us is a man that calls their games as a color analyst on MSG, and that's Joe Micheletti, who's kind enough to hop on board with us. Joe, happy start to the hockey postseason. Thanks for a few minutes, and how are you?
I'm just great, Zach. Thanks. It's a great time of the year. I can't wait for it to get going tonight.
It is, and I'm really excited about this series between the Rangers and the Montreal Canadiens, a perfect 2-7 matchup in the Eastern Conference, and one that I could see the Rangers having an upset. But let's go back to how the way the Rangers ended the season. It wasn't a smooth sailing, and some of that was by design, with them knowing their faith and having them rested and getting all healthy for this run. How about the last few weeks of the Rangers, and do you think they'll be able to flip the switch when the puck does drop tonight?
Well, I do, Zach, and I think there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, the last month or so, I think the Rangers, for the most part, they knew where they were going to end up. They were going to be the seventh seed in the Eastern Conference. Even when they were winning games, the fact that Washington, Pittsburgh, and Columbus ahead of them just kept on winning in the best division in hockey. So the Rangers had a pretty good idea where they were going to finish. And when you take that into account, you lose just a slight edge of your competitiveness, because you're basically in. I don't think there was any question they were going to make the playoffs, but they knew that they were. It was going to be very difficult for them to end up in the top three in the division, and so you lose a little bit of that competitive edge, and it really makes a difference, in particular playing against teams that have to make it, have to get in. And so the one thing about the Rangers is that they do have a lot of players that have been there before. They've been through the playoff wars. They understand how the intensity of the game gets ratcheted up, the importance of not making mistakes. And this is a core group that's been together for quite a while now. So I would think that with their experience, and I would certainly hope that they'd be ready to go tonight, and understand that they're going to have to play with much more desperation and much better defensively in order to win this series. And of course, they're going to have to win at least one of those games in Montreal, which is difficult to do.
Now, you talk about the experience, and we all know the Rangers have the most experience headed into this postseason with the long runs and the 7-game series that they've been on in these last few years, and they've had the entire season to try to replace the presence of a Derek Brassard, as he was traded in the offseason. But Brassard was a major playmaker for the Rangers in the last few runs. Who do you really look for to step up and be one of those dominant players like Brassard was in the postseason the last few years?
I'm kind of thinking everybody, Zach, and the reason I say that is because when I compare this Ranger team to last season's team, and they were almost very similar in games won, in points, and all that type of thing. But I just think that this year's team is much better than last year's. I just think that the fact that Jeff Gorton, the general manager, and his staff went out and added some key pieces, to me, there's just so much more depth. And yes, Derek Brassard he was a heck of a playoff player for the Rangers, and will he be missed? We'll see. I would expect that the player that they traded him for, Mika Zibanejad, is going to play well in the playoffs. I think that the time he missed with the broken leg, it took him a lot of games after that to get back to a level that I think that he's comfortable with, and it looks like, at least these last couple of weeks, like he's playing his best hockey since he broke the leg. So you would expect him to step up and certainly play well. I think the Derek Stepan line with Kreider on one side and Zuccarello on the other is going to be really effective and difficult to stop. And then Kevin Hayes, with the year he's had on, if you want to call it the third line, with J.T. Miller on the right side and Michael Grabner on the left, those are three real good offensive lines that I think in any given game, one or two of those lines can give you the offense that it takes to win. So I think more by committee than anything, And I will say this: if I have to just pick a player that most people maybe wouldn't think of, that might step up, I would just keep an eye on Jimmy Vesey. He's you know what? I love the kid. He is a rookie. This is all new for him, but he's got something inside of him that I like, and I just would keep an eye on him as maybe a dark horse player that might do some good in the playoffs.
With the roster decision that Alain Vigneault is going to have to make before puck drop does come tonight, do you expect Tanner Glass in? How does he go with the forwards?
It looks like he's in. Yeah, Tanner Glass looks like, as of right now, he's in on the fourth line on the left wing with Oscar Lindberg in the middle and Jesper Fast, who missed a lot of time going down the stretch. He'll be on the right side. And the one veteran defenseman that will not play is Kevin Klein. So they're going to have 5 left-handed defensemen in the lineup for tonight. He'll go back with Mark Stahl and Nick Holden as a pair. Nick Holden will be on the right, and then it'll be Smith and Shea as your third pair with Shea on the left side, Smith on the right side, and then the old reliables. You've got Ryan McDonough, their captain, back with Dan Girardi. So those will be the 6 defense for tonight, and we'll see what happens. He's going with experience, which I think is important. They've got to try and win a game here in Montreal.
The defense as a whole, we know that McDonough, from an individual standpoint, is having a sensational year when you have a plus 20. But how do you evaluate this defensive group going into the postseason?
Well, I think there's some question marks because they didn't play particularly well going down the stretch. McDonough's a great player. Brady Shea's had an outstanding season for a rookie, and he's got some playoff experience. Remember, he played the 5 games last season against Pittsburgh in the first round, and there was an argument that he might have been the Rangers' best player. So they might end up seeing more time than maybe we think. But Girardi's had a better season than last year. Holden's had a pretty steady season for them, and Mark Stahl. There's not a great deal of speed back there, and so it's going to be really important for the Rangers to not have those long stretches where they get pinned in their own zone and have trouble going out. Montreal's a good forechecking team, so they will put pressure on them. But for the Rangers, make sure that they help out and protect Henrik Lundqvist, protect the front of the net, and if you can, get that first pass on somebody's stick and get out of the zone easily. If the Rangers do that, then they got to find a way to get to Carey Price, which is probably the most difficult area of this series for the Rangers.
Joe Micheletti with us right now. Couldn't get a better goalie matchup, right, in round 1?
No, for sure. I mean, this is Carey Price. What's interesting, I think, Zach, is that both these goaltenders over the course of this season have had their ups and their downs.
Sure.
Some of the downs that we've seen out of Henrik Lundqvist we've never seen before. But he is such an unbelievable competitor that we've seen him get out of that and get back to who he is. With Carey Price, he had the great start to the season. Then he went through a period of about 2 months where, he didn't play very well. His numbers weren't very good. He was allowing goals that normally you don't see. But since the coaching change in Montreal, Carey Price has been spectacular. The team is coming into the playoffs on a roll, playing excellent hockey. And I think that Henrik Lundqvist, he missed about 3 weeks with a hip injury. Came back, played 6 games, and I think the last 2 games of those 6 is where he really found his game. And I'm at least confident watching him that he'll play well. This has been a difficult place, though, as you well know, Zach, for the Rangers to play. It's been a real tough place for Henrik Lundqvist to win games and to play. His numbers aren't very good in Montreal, but you know what? It's the playoffs, and it's a different type of season now.
With Hank, and like you said, he had an up and down season, and he's definitely had his struggles in Montreal. But with all that being said, you look at the year that he's had and the run that he's been on, I would have to imagine that you expect a lot of 2-1 games like we've been used to in the Rangers postseason. But more importantly, I would have to assume at this point, with just his experience with Lundqvist, he blocks out all those distractions, right?
He's I've been around a lot of athletes, a lot of hockey players for many, many years, Zach. He is as competitive a player as I've been around. He is as prepared as anyone. He is driven. He has spoken about it, that the only thing that's missing from his great resume is winning a Stanley Cup, and he just wants to win one so badly for the fans of New York. So that's what drives him. And again, is it going to be easy? No, not at all. In fact, he was mentioning a couple of days ago, he knows Carey Price is playing at the top of his game, and knows that a lot of people think that Carey Price is the best goaltender in the game. So that's another part of this competition that he looks at and says, I'm going to have to be better than what I've been, and he's going to have to be real good in order to defeat Montreal because of the play and the expectations of how Carey Price is going to play.
Last time these two teams met in the postseason, it was the Eastern Conference Final back in the year that the Rangers got to the Stanley Cup Final before going down to the LA Kings, and everyone knows how that series started with Kreider taking out, how they say it, Carey Price, but I don't think that was a dirty play. Is there still a carryover this time around, or is it just the postseason and you eliminate all that from the past?
Zach, I've been here since yesterday up in Canada. Of course, TSN, the All Sports Network in Canada. I've been watching that just about 24/7, and on every sports report when they get to Montreal and the Rangers and talk about the series, it is discussed about what happened with Chris Kreider and Carey Price 3 years ago. That being said, now I'm sitting down in the lobby of the hotel, and I've got the morning paper, and as I take out the sports page and I look at the front page, it's got a huge picture on the top half of the paper, huge picture of Chris Kreider, who is down on the ice sliding into Carey Price. So I think that answers your question about whether they have forgotten about that or not.
Hey, that's ridiculous. I'm just going to say, and I'm going to go out on a limb here, he's going to get booed heavily tonight when he gets on the ice.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure.
Joe Micheletti with us, wrapping up with the Rangers color analyst on MSG. This series, like we said, we anticipate it to be a great goaltending matchup. Other than that, what do you think it comes down to? The team that wins this series is going to be able to do what?
Well, I think from a Ranger standpoint, you look at where they might have an edge, and I think up the center of the ice, the Rangers centers versus the Canadiens centers, I think the Rangers have a big edge. They have a big edge in size. They have a big edge in speed. They have a big edge in offense. And I just think when you have a team that's strong down the middle and players can do a number of different things, it gives you a little bit of an edge. So the Rangers centers are going to have to outplay the Montreal centers. If they do that, they've got a real good chance to win. And again, the real key here, the one player that stands out in this series as to whether which team wins is Carey Price. The Rangers have to find a way to score on Carey Price, which means to do that, you're going to have to get in his way. You're going to have to try and force him to look around players to find the puck. And when he does stop them, and he stops most of the first shots, you're going to have to swarm the net and get rebounds and score on the rebounds. And so that to me is, can they get to Carey Price? That's what they're going to have to figure out. And if they do that, they'll win the series.
I hate to go back to the contentious rivalry, but off that, it seems like then Chris Kreider's going to have to play his best hockey of the year, right?
Yeah, well, he's played like that all year, and he spends a lot of time. He spends a lot of time in front of the net, and with his size at 225 pounds and his ability to tip pucks, he's going to draw a lot of attention, and he's going to have to keep his cool. And if they want to just pay too much attention to him, that will favor the Rangers. If he can draw some penalties, that favors the Rangers. So he will have to do that, but it can't be just him. Every line's going to have to find ways to get there and to get in front of the net. And we talked about certain players before. JT Miller's a playoff player. I mean, he has shown that in his career thus far, and he's had an outstanding season. And I would look for JT Miller to be someone that is going to contribute heavily as well to the Rangers.
Wrapping up with Joe Micheletti, who joins us right now. You look at the Metropolitan Four. How confident are you that one of those four teams will be in the Stanley Cup Final, or do you like to take the field in this one?
No. I think that somebody out of the Metropolitan Division is going to be in the finals. I don't think there's any question with the season that Washington's had. With Ovechkin, they've never made it past the second round. They've got more depth this season. They've got outstanding goaltending, but you know what? I just would not count Pittsburgh out, even though they've lost Chris Letang. it's a tremendous blow to them. But if they're, if they get everybody else back, which it looks like they will, they are a difficult team to beat. And it's too bad we're going to lose a really good team in the first round. Either Pittsburgh or Columbus is going to be out, and they're two of the top teams in the league. So I still think that somebody from the Metropolitan Division is going to end up in the final.
What do you make of Washington? Because every year we see Washington's at this point, but they haven't been able to cash through and bring home the Stanley Cup.
I think they're better. I do. I think they've done the right things. Yeah, well, in the off season, like if you go back to last season, they didn't get much production in the playoffs from their third and fourth lines. Those two areas are much better this season than they were last year. So now, if you think you can go in and just shut down Ovechkin and Backstrom and Oshie and think you're going to win the series, that's not necessarily true this year because they do have other players that can contribute. We know that they can play well defensively. We know that they've got an outstanding goaltender in Holtby, and so they just have more depth. And I think with and they also added the depth on defense with Kevin Shattenkirk, the deal they made with St. Louis at the deadline. So this is a team that was good before they made the moves, and they're that much better now.
Joe, one last one as Joe Micheletti joins us. I heard Alain Vigneault on with Mike Francesa the other day up in New York, and it seems like AV is very confident, even though that this has been an up-and-down season for the Rangers and they still get 102 points. Do you sense a little bit more confidence with this group compared to some previous other years?
I will say this, Zach, because I travel with the team and I see them every day in practice. I wouldn't necessarily say every other year, but I know this: when the team has gone through some difficult times during the season. There haven't been many because you look at their record, there haven't been that many. But at the times when they didn't play well and maybe they lost some successive games, the one thing that continued to stand out for me as I was around this team is it never bothered them. Not that they didn't like to lose, but there's a confidence level that this group has that they think and they know they're good. And so now, can they bring that forward to the playoffs? But it's been a group that's been real together all season, and they feel they're a good team.
Hey, Joe, we appreciate it. Enjoy that newspaper with that hogwash that Montreal's trying to produce with Chris Kreider and Carey Price, and enjoy the call in Game 1.
All right, Zach. Thanks so much. Great to be with you as always.
Thanks so much. There's Joe Micheletti from MSG joining us on the Zach Gelb Show.